This time I'd like to ask the question from Mary, please, if it's possible.
Sorry, which question?
I'd like to ask Mary a question.
Mary a question?
Yeah.
Sure. If Mary desires to answer it, do you?
Thank you.
Yeah?
Yes, my friend actually asked already regarding our system, and even that we live under the pressure of our system, we still need to love what's happening around us, and even if we feel very uncomfortable and we feel that pressure, we still need to get rid of our fears, and it's very, very difficult to do. In my situation is the problem with work, as I feel, because it's a big pressure, and I do work. I love my work, but I love my kids more, and I have 3 children on my own. I have to work very hard to support them financially, but at the same time I feel very confused because I want to stop working to spend more time with my kids, because I'm a single mom and nobody helps me, and it's
So what's the question?
the question is how to find that balance and harmony in your heart when you still need to work and to pay all these bills and to support kids financially. Even that, I can't love my work because it takes all the energy away from me.
Uh-huh.
When I come home, I feel just very tired. I can't do anything.
Yep.
And my kids really annoying me because I feel very drained.
You feel like there's nothing left to give them.
Because I give everything to my work, and I think it's not fair to my kids.
Yep.
You know?
So why don't we talk about what God reliance really is? God reliance is, so firstly, acting in your passions and desires. So recognising what am I passionate about, what do I really want to create, and that's different for all of us, that pure creative part of us, and acting on those passions and desires with a willingness to be humble about it, so feeling our emotions as we do it, and trusting that God will provide for us in that process. So at the moment, you're not trusting that God's going to provide for you if you follow your passions and desires. So that's the major sticking point, isn't it? That's the emotion to start with.
As AJ told us before, that all of us have free will and choices.
Yep.
So my choice is actually to stop working.
Yep.
So
the key then, so you've recognised, okay, I don't feel like I'm in harmony with love when I go to work and give out all my energy all day and I come home to my kids and there's nothing left. So you recognise, okay, I feel like I'm out of harmony with love there. I'm going to take action, which is great. The next thing is to remain humble in that process. So recognise that at the moment within you, there's still a huge belief that is based in a fear that I won't be able to provide for my family in this space. So you need to be able to experience that emotion. I'm terrified, I'm not going to be able to provide for my kids, we're going to be destitute. You need to release that emotion, because at the moment that fear is blocking your creativity, your desire and your passion.
That's right, and I feel it. And
Yeah.
I started working less now, and I feel even more fears because, I'm getting more troubles and paying bills, and it's getting more difficult. But I feel that if I don't have to go to work, I feel happier, I feel happy to stay at home and just do some art that I love doing. And
the truth is, at the moment, you feel terrified to stay at home. You intellectually think, yep, that's a good idea and this would be more loving for my family and for myself. But the thing that's blocking you at the moment is you're not willing to go through the fear. And you're kind of trying to live in the half world, like, I'll just do it a little bit less so I can have a little bit more. And in the end, you're just trying to maintain a less fearful place for yourself. Compromising, which is a big way that we get around the God reliance emotion. We go, I'll just make it a bit more amenable to myself and my emotional condition, so I don't have to deal with the massive whopping big fear that just about all of us have, that God is not going to provide for me, God doesn't really love me.
so you're saying if I'll trust God, I'll rely on God more.
Yes, you rely on God, but under the proviso that God has created us to take responsibility for ourselves, the love of ourselves, and the love of our creations, which is our children. So it's not giving up work and going, okay, kids, I'm just going to hang out here and God will look after us. Because we have to be responsible and look after our creation and our own body, our own environment, all of those things. That's how God created us. But if we do have trust in God in that place, that God actually created me to live in my passion and live in my desire, that's what God wants for me, then we will take the step to do that and experience all of the emotion that it triggers. And for yourself, there's still a huge emotion that comes from your family when you're a kid, and now you've transferred that onto God, that unless I do certain things, God won't look after me. So there's a big grief there to feel. And that's the only way this is going to work for you, is if you're willing to feel these emotions, because these emotions are what's causing the law of attraction at the moment.
Can I also say some things to you? Like, you seem to want the answer from Mary,
Sure,
so
sure.
I need to ask you that first. And one of the things, what is your desire, your real desire? If you had an ideal job, what would it be?
I actually feel that I need to change something in my life completely. Like, really.
Yeah, but you actually do know what you desire to do already.
No, I don't know.
If you didn't have any restriction on money or kids or where you lived or whatever, what would you love to do?
That's why I'm asking you, because I feel very confused. I don't really know what I...
And I'm saying you actually do know. You've even mentioned it already.
What is the thing you're going
Art?
to do? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you would prefer to do, isn't it?
Because I don't really feel confident that what I'm doing, but I'm trying to spend more time doing that.
Because you enjoy that thing.
Yes, I do. Very
So
much.
let's say that's your passion, shall we? Just for a moment. What's shutting down your passion is your fear. Because you don't feel that art is ever going to support you. You don't feel it's ever going to give you the things that you need to live and to care for your children and so forth. And so as a result of that, there's this tendency to ignore the fact that this is a real big passion that you have. And the beauty of how God created her universe is that she created her universe for us to actually experience our passions fully. So if you tune into experiencing your passions fully, you'll find within a very short time something will come along that will also give you enough funds to provide for your family while you're experiencing your passions. Now, in between then and now, it's a matter of releasing emotions that cause you to believe that you're not going to be able to create abundance. And those emotions, my personal experience has been, they're pretty hard to actually get through. And sometimes you've got to go through a very destitute place in order to feel those emotions fully, and then you come out the other side. And have you dealt with those emotions fully yet, do you feel? Or?
No.
When we first met, a year after we first met, Mary was still working full time, and she was also at the same time studying as well as trying to deal with her emotions at the same time. She was doing a master's degree and working as an occupational therapist. Now, in the process of doing all of that, Mary, when I proposed to her, Mary, why don't you leave all of that and come out and live with me out in bush, right? Because that's where we live. Because it was either that or me travel in constantly, and in the end, every time I travelled in, I found that things were so shut down emotionally where Mary was living that it was impossible to feel emotion. So I said, well, why don't you consider the option of coming out and feeling your emotions? And Mary's first pretty much question was?
I had some fears about, I had a lot of things going on about my own identity and career and what I was all about, but also about abundance. I've supported myself since I was 16. The thought of giving up work, going to live with a guy who didn't have a job.
And had no money himself.
Who works for donations. Or plays for donations. He does what he wants.
I play for donations.
Yeah. I was thinking, wow, I knew how much he had in the bank and I knew how much I had in the bank because I'd been living overseas for 4 years, so I didn't have any savings. I'd spent all of them in my travels. So, I was a little challenged. And since then, we've kind of ridden on AJ's law of abundance, I feel, because he's worked through a lot of his emotions.
Well, the first month Mary came to stay with me, though, we got $800 in donations.
Yeah.
And
so that's about all the money we had.
That's just enough for us to live on. which is interesting. And then as we dealt with different emotions, we got to the point where we could start, buying DVDs and buying recorders and doing all those things and getting a car. I had a little $2,000 car I used to run around in. Now we've got a bigger wagon so we can shove all the sound gear in. But all of those things have happened only when we've dealt with emotion. And Mary had to deal with quite a lot in that process. And then she come up with the idea of she wanted to do a workshop, right? And that was Mary's desire being exercised. And then...
And at the first workshop, I forgot to put out the donations box because I felt so unworthy of receiving anything. AJ arrived on the second day and went, "What? You don't even have a donations box out?" And I went, "Oh no, it's okay."
I was tempted to actually leave it like away so that Mary could feel the law of attraction of having no donations.
Which I probably felt I deserved.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've worked through a lot of that around my own worth, and that by living in my passions and confronting a lot of those fears. Yeah.
And by the third workshop, we could live on Mary's donations. So.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for your answer.
So it's a matter, can you see it's a matter of just dealing with the emotions every time?
I'm trying very hard.
And many of us are afraid to act. Many of us know what the truth is inside of ourselves.
I feel like I'm stuck with my life, in my life,
If you feel stuck, it's because you're afraid to act.
Yeah. And for me, that is the thing that's changed everything, every time.
Yeah.
When I've recognised I'm totally out of harmony with love and truth in this part of my life, I'm going to change it and just feel whatever comes up. Because otherwise I lived in my fear. I thought, I'll deal with some emotions so that it's not so hard to make the change. But I never had the motivation to deal with the emotions. I had to confront the change.
And the beauty of making the change is that you make the change that you know is a more loving change for yourself. And all of the emotions that are there present that you've been avoiding, all of a sudden all come up. And within a very short space in time, you grow very rapidly if you're willing to feel it all. And that's the beauty of acting. When you know what to do that's right, don't just sit on it. Act upon it straight away, no matter how afraid you are.
It doesn't matter what other people think about you.
No,
and that's an emotion to go through. Yeah. Like, there's heaps of emotions that are going to be triggered for you in this process. Yep. About, I'm not going to be able to provide, I'll be a bad mother, everyone will think I'm a bad mother. There's three emotions.
Through the process even, people will think you're a bad mother.
Exactly.
And people will think...
Until you release that emotion. Yeah. And then people will start going, wow, I really respect you for living in your passions and not denying yourself. Yeah. But only after you go through that emotion.
After you go through it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And now, can I just say that we both live totally in our passions, and it's the best lifestyle I've ever had in my whole life. We go and meet amazing people everywhere in the country, live in our passion, and do what we want anywhere else at any other time. Yeah. And
occasionally, we still get where people attack us, but it's very rare now because every time people have attacked us in the past, we've felt our emotions about it. You know what I mean? So now when we get a group of people like yourself, we find they're all wonderful. And we just have instead a totally different experience. Whereas my first experiences in front of 100 or so people were always very attacking. And I had to go home and cry for a couple of days after every experience, right? And then as a result of that, release that emotion, release that emotion, release that emotion, release that one. And now we come to the place where the law of attraction automatically changes because of releasing these emotions. If I hadn't released those emotions, I'd still be having groups of people who'd be attacking me all the time. And now, there are people attacking me, but they don't seem to want to attack me personally, directly, even though they know how to. Whereas 2 or 3 years ago, I had men ringing me up on phone wanting to kill me, and I had all sorts of things happening. It doesn't happen anymore because I've felt all my emotions about it. Does that make sense?